Hey everyone, this is Chess Coach Aaron, and I want to go over a very short game, and I want to talk a little bit about an opening. I've been talking about the Grand Prix attack for white versus the Sicilian, but I'm going to talk about playing the Grand Prix attack, the same ideas as black against white. You can actually play the Grand Prix attack. The same ideas can apply as black when your opponent plays c4. This, if you think about it, they're starting with c4 as their first move, and this is called the English, start of the English opening. But it's really, if you flip the board and you look at it, when you play e4, they play c5, that's the Sicilian. So think of them playing c4 as the Sicilian. They're playing the Sicilian defense, but they're playing it as white, and they're playing with an extra move. Now, this extra move can really mean something, of course, but you can still use the same ideas for the Grand Prix attack against c4, as if they're playing Sicilian. So the Grand Prix attack ideas are to basically make these your first 5 moves. You want your pawn duo, your snowplow, which would be f4 and e4 if you're white, but here it's e5 and f5 is black, so you want to get that pawn duo or snowplow ready. You usually don't move it forward, your snowplow, until you've kind of got everything else ready behind it or with it. But you need these as your first 2 moves, and as soon as you move an f-pawn, whether you're white or black, we talk about how windy it gets right away. So as soon as I played f5, I know it's going to be windy. Whenever you move your f-pawns in these type of positions, you want to shore up the windiness. You want to cover the windiness as soon as possible. So when I play f5, I want to play knight f6 as soon as I can. Might have to do something else, but if I can, that's my next move. Cover this square h5 especially and try to protect my windiness. So usually somewhere along the way, this is your first 5 moves. The order might be different. Bishop can go to b4 or c5, just like if you're white. This is also usually the same first 4 or 5 moves. Now, in the Grand Prix attack, when they put their knight on c3, I really want to trade my bishop for it. I want to get it out of the way so I can castle. And many times, since this is going to be our structure, this is going to be our pawn structure, our development to start with, and we leave this bishop back here, because our idea is to swing our queen around. Go to e8 and go to h5. And we're going to put pressure in this area. Many times, not all of the time, when you play the Grand Prix attack as white, or if you're playing this version as black, when they play c4, many times they're going to play an early g3 and put their bishop on g2. This is because if they're playing c4, but we're not going to challenge c4 and it's not going to get traded away, well, this light squared bishop is going to have some problems on this diagonal finding a happy spot. So if c4 pawn is going to stay there, this bishop usually now, many times when people play the English as white, or the reverse Sicilian, they're going to put their bishop on g2 instead. This creates some opportunities, light square targets for us. So if we follow our main ideas, whoop, and most of the time, if we're lucky, we'll be able to trade, whoops, our bishop for that knight, double up their pawns, and if we can follow through with our plan, whoop. And notice they probably did some other moves, maybe like this, their knight is on f3, or maybe they put the pawn forward and they put their knight on e2 instead. But we're looking at these ideas of how we're going to approach this setup for black. And my idea is to play the Grand Prix attack with this pawn duo and go forward at the right time. Unleash our idea on these light squares, depending on how white plays. So if you see my videos for the Grand Prix attack as white, you'll be able to kind of reverse this and use this for black against c4, the English opening. Or you can call it the reverse Sicilian. All right, let me show you the quick game, a short game I just played. And no guarantees you're going to get this exact type of position, but this is what we're looking for. All right, so they played c4. I play immediately e5. They played their knight out. Sometimes you'll get g3. You might get one of these pawn moves instead. Many times you'll get this early knight also. And now I played f5. So I need to get this no plow. That's part of the Grand Prix attack, so I need to do this right away, basically. I don't have time as black, because white has an extra move. I don't have time to really play knight c6 to try to lock down d5, not in the same way as if I was white here, but I'm black. You could still play it, but it's a little slower. I want to get this pawn duo set up and get my knight to protect the windiness as soon as possible. And I like when they play an early knight c3, so I can play bishop b4 and try to trade it away and mess up their pawns. All right, let's keep going. They play g3, very typical. Put my knight to close up the windiness, closer to castling. They put their bishop on g2. Makes sense, right? You always fee and kettle your bishop after you usually make this little cave for the dragon, as I call it. Unless there's another thing to do emergency-wise, usually this is what you do. You put your dragon in the cave, or you fee and kettle your bishop. All right, so I could have played knight to c6, of course. Now locking this down. But with their knight on c3 already, I want to hurry up and be able to castle and try to double these pawns. Get rid of my bishop. Get it out of the way so I can play e6 soon. So I play bishop to b4. Now I've had some players jump out of the way, and now they're attacking my bishop. And with their bishop and their c4 pawn protecting the knight, makes a lot of sense. Usually in this situation, I just back up. I don't trade the knight for the bishop like this. You could put your knight out and try to protect, or you could even play the a pawn and protect. I don't like those. I'd rather control d5 and aim for the f pawn, and I can chase this knight away. I can play d6 and later c6, which chases this knight away. And by the way, the pawn on c6 and b7 now starts to blunt their bishop. So it doesn't really hurt back at all. So it's very productive, actually, to chase this away. And if they trade, especially after we castle, getting a rook lifted kind of can help us. And with the rook here, you can still go forward with your f-pawn as needed, and that's a Grand Prix attack idea. So I'm not necessarily worried about them jumping into the center with the knight. I have had that happen several times. But in this game, they played e3, and it's a little suspicious. And this is just talking general terms in chess. It's a little suspicious to put so many pawns early in the game, especially on one color. And after I capture, still going to have more all in the dark squares. This creates a lot of, light square issues, right? And once white's already done this situation where they create this fee and kettle bishop on a light square, it means they already have a bunch of pawns on the dark squares. So they really shouldn't do e3 so quickly. I know they're trying to get their knight out, but my opinion is this is really just inviting trouble on the light squares. You can actually go forward, especially after you make this trade, and go to e4, and that already starting to cover the squares. But I usually don't play e4 early unless my knight's already prepared to follow it. So if I have my knight on c6, playing e4 followed by knight to e5 really clamps down perhaps on these light squares, especially after, after I take on c3. And when they take back, it really makes the light squares very weak. So I'm a little suspicious of an early e3 here. So I got rid of my bishop, and they captured back towards the center, very common because they want to play, d4 with support. Makes sense. But this becomes very cumbersome. So I decided to castle. The three main moves are knight c6, d6, which is actually the most accurate move and probably what should be played, and castling. Very often as black, not on the white side of Grand Prix, I usually do castling on the 5th or 6th move, but with black, I'm trying to castle as soon as I can, many times not worrying about certain things because I'm a move behind, which means I just want to get my king out of the way safe as soon as possible. So I usually do castling, and perhaps that's not needed here, of course. And I always ask my students this question, and it's very true. Do I need to castle here? I want to castle here, but do I need to? Now, d6 is probably the most accurate simply because it already covers c5, so there's no little shenanigans of them moving their pawn forward. I've had some players move their pawn forward, and even though, again, they're putting everything in dark squares, and now the dark square bishop is just not that happy. Oh my gosh. But that said, they know I have to go forward with my d-pawn at some point, right? I got to make this bishop happy, and I'm not playing with b6 anytime soon. So I'm going to move my d-pawn forward, and that means they get to trade away their double pawns, kind of helping them a little bit. But I can play queen e7 with a tempo, attacking a pawn, usually they'll protect, and, you know, get my queen off the back rank a little bit. Even though in the Grand Prix, we actually usually like to go to the king side, usually h4 if you're white and h5 if you're black, with this method. But many times the queen is also well served just being on the E line early on, especially if you can get in an early f4 going forward. You want to open stuff up. Their king's still in the center. So the most accurate probably is, instead of my castling, is probably just d6. And then castle, knight up, and then perhaps follow with my queen going this way. Very standard Grand Prix ideas. If they hit the center, if my knight is on c6, I don't have to worry about that because these pawns, which are doubled, they're c-pawns, really don't want to be left alone. So if they take their d-pawn and trade it for my e-pawn, whoop, right? That would leave these isolated double there. And my knight can go forward and capture, so I shouldn't be worried about it. Many times when they go forward, though, I respond with covering the light squares. Again, they have all these pawns on the dark squares. So I'm not really worried about them taking, so I shouldn't go forward so early, which is kind of what I did, but many times it's still really strong. I do go forward at the right time because f4 is still a great idea too, so I shouldn't take this idea away from myself, especially if the knight goes to e2 because now they can go to f4. But I love when my queen, and I'm getting way ahead of myself maybe, but I love after castling, and I get my queen on e8 when they have, let's say my pawn went forward, their pawn went forward, and their knight gets to f4 here. I love being able to chase their knight away with my g-pawn. And with my knight and queen covering h5, their knight can't go there. It only has one protector. So by playing the g-pawn forward, right, this is kind of the position, if you can see it in your mind. Maybe I'll try to even set this up a little bit. Let's see if I can set it up. Knight out, castle, d6, making all the normal moves, trying to set myself up for the Grand Prix style attack, but I'm playing black. And now they hit the center. And I responded right away by going forward here, which I didn't have to because my knight is covering. But here's what I'm talking about. I probably, most of the time in these type of positions, I play queen over and get over to the king side as soon as I can. It's protected, it hits some light squares, and now I'm threatening either pawn going forward at the right time. The f-pawn going forward is nice because it unleashes the bishop. And with the queen here and the bishop coming to h3, knight going to hopefully g4, you have your full Grand Prix attack ideas. Wonderful. But let's say I go e4, and now they went to d5. Huge mistake, in my opinion, and it ended the game pretty quickly, I think. But let's say instead they go knight to f4, like I'm saying. This seems like a nice spot for the moment, but now I move my queen over, and I'm going to be playing g5 here, chasing this knight away. It's just got to run back, right? Where's it going to go? And now my queen can go to g3 after that pawn is on g4, and I can get in a very strong f5. I can move my bishop out of the way, bring the other rook over if I want to first, preparing it more, but this is pretty nice. It's like, there's my f and e pawns going forward, and suddenly they get locked up a little bit, so I get another pawn, a g pawn to help, and now we keep going. And that's really part of the idea. You get your pawns kind of steamrolling forward. All right, and that's a Grand Prix idea sometimes. And you want to open up the lines to their king. So why is d5, though, which is what they played, and I was expecting knight here, which I've seen many more times, and I followed up with the queen and the pawn, like I'm saying, many games like this. But why is this a mistake? It does give another spot for their knight. But if you go back one step, you'll notice my knight on c6, my queenside knight, is not part of anything going on kingside at all. It's not part of that. It's kind of sitting there waiting to do something, and later on, if I need to, maybe I'll go, through e7 and it'll join if I need to on that side of the board. Pretty much it's just kind of keeping watch over here, right? It's just kind of looking around and waiting for white to go forward with something perhaps and just kind of stay on guard, but it's really not doing a whole lot. It really isn't. The second they go d5, though, whoop, well, that's just too much. You already have 1, 2, 3, 4 tall pieces and a couple pawns that are all going to work in this area, and you're letting your opponent bring in a queenside piece that shouldn't be part of it. And notice, now I'm targeting even more all those light squares. So juicy. All right, let's finish this up because at this point, I already believe black has a much better game. Maybe even borderlining on winning in some ways, simply because how is white going to really stop black from doing anything here? These pawns are not going anywhere, especially once I play b6. My queen can still swing around at the right time. All right. So this was just the opening phase. I just wanted to see some ideas for the Grand Prix as black. This game did not last too much longer. And again, this is only a 3-minute blitz. So sometimes things can get crazy and you're not making your best moves. And played b6, try to lock down the queen side. They can't go forward, right? And white was putting some pressure in case my bishop left. But this one simple move just locks down the whole queen side. Love it. All right, next move. They're playing on the queen side. Let them. And notice also what happened here, just in case I didn't say it real quick. Not only does my knight attack these 3 squares, g4, f3, covering all the stuff my knight can go in there, but it's also attacking one of the weak c pawns. They don't have a pawn that can protect it. As a matter of fact, what's the only thing that can protect it? Oh yeah, the queen. Queen protects it, puts pressure, and not only do I lock down so their double pawns can't move, right? Whoop! But a little sneaky, I unleash my light square bishop in the other direction, and oh, what is it targeting? They're double C weak pawns, and through that c4 pawn, going down the light squares. And notice, there's just no way for white to really deal with this. All right, so they go forward. I play my bishop, and here's actually they start thinking more than any other move almost, because it's like, whoa. And they tried to make it a little spicy, right? They're coming into perhaps e6 and threatening a fork, winning, but I'm not even worried about that now. With my knights, with winning a pawn and exchange, and so many light squared weaknesses, whoops, I already think I can give up this rook and bring the other rook over to capture for their knight if they want, and I still think I'm just winning. All right, I took the pawn, they saved their queen, took the rook, they take back, and I have a check, and things are happening so quick. I kept thinking about getting my queen over here and just jumping over these light squares, but this is a big blunder. They actually have made a big mistake. I can now, thanks to their back rank weakness, notice they never got this dark squared bishop out of the way, right? So I now have knight going to e1, winning the queen. Did I play it? Embarrassingly, no. I moved my queen over to go over here. They made another move, and they didn't see it either, unfortunately, for them, and now I did see it. So queen coming over to h5 was still going to positionally win this game. Their knight coming here doesn't really hurt. I have 2 knights with my queen once it's on h5 here, and there's a lot of pressure. I can get my g-pawn going, right? Just like we were talking about, and this is all good Grand Prix attack ideas. Throw in the fact that I'm up the exchange, and here, though, there's the extra, which, of course, they just didn't see the fork. I didn't see it for one move also. All right, but this is just a quick example. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed some Grand Prix ideas for black against c4 for white. Think of them when they play c4 as them playing the Sicilian as white, the Sicilian reversed. It's really called the English, but once they play c4, you can play as if they're playing the Sicilian, but they do have an extra move, so you have to be much more careful about certain positions. But you can kind of see what can happen. Maybe I'll post another video of playing the Grand Prix attack as black too. All right, real quick, let's get one last joke in and finish the video. Why did the rooster cross the road? Not a chicken. Why did the rooster cross the road? Well, we do know chickens are great at chess, so that's why they crossed the road. And we do know the bubblegum was stuck to the chicken's foot. That's why the bubblegum crossed the road. But why did the rooster cross the road? Oh, yeah, to prove he wasn't a chicken. All right, guys, this is Coach Aaron. Peace.